Cool. Feel good? Okay, welcome everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. It's 3:30 p.m. for the full council, Buller District Council meeting, Wednesday, 30th of November 2022. Welcome Alan and Jack in the public forum, and the other Alan from the Fourth Estate, Westport News. Right, thank you everybody. Agenda item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies for today's meeting? Everybody is here. So I move that there are no apologies. Seconded, Annalise, Councillor Farlett. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. There are no members wishing to, members of the public wishing to speak. So agenda item 2, members' interests. Are there any matters on today's agenda for which elected members would like to declare a financial or non-financial interest? Somebody like to move? There are none to record. Moved Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor Grafton. All those in favour? Any against? It's carried unanimously. Agenda item 3, the minutes from council meeting held at 3 p.m. on the 26th of October. Are there any matters of correction to be recorded in those minutes, please? Somebody like to move? They are a correct account. Councillor Webb, seconded Councillor Howard. All those in favour? Any against? Councillor Reedy against. Agenda item 4 is the council action point list. There's no outstanding action points on that list at the moment. I move that that be received. Seconded Councillor Farlett. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, this is a agenda item 5 is an update on the progress of the annual report coming back to council. It's fairly straightforward. It's a delay brought about by the availability of the auditor, I understand. And further to add to that, pretty straightforward. So we should be seeing that 14 December at the next council meeting. So the recommendation here is that we receive that update for report for information. Moved Councillor Farlett, seconded Councillor Howard. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Any against? That's carried unanimously. Right, agenda item 6 is the requirement for Buller District Council to provide a nomination to the TTPP committee for a RMA commissioner to represent Buller in the hearing of submissions to the TTPP. Do either of you wish to speak any further to that round process, or we just go for questions?
I'm happy to take questions.
It's fairly self-explanatory. Councillors, are there any questions on that report? Councillor Howard?
I thought we had a limited number to choose from that. I'm not quite sure what we've done with the Buller District Council. I just know her background's very much in the environmental marine background. And do you feel she has a feel for like a built environment, spatial planning, and the better enabling development aspect? So with those part of the discussion,
I can speak to that. I have worked with Ms. McGarry before, and I would feel confident that yes, she does. She has sat on a number of consent hearings for us, and they have involved issues around urban development, amenities, the sorts of things that you find in the district plan. So I found it he's an operator, and she's very aware of those issues and has good skills there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question, Councillor
I was just
Simpson.
going to say along the same lines, so I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded. Councillor Bartlett. Do you want to speak to any other discussion on that? Councillor Naylor?
Yes, I've no problem with the recommendation and no problem with the nomination, but I guess I really want to flag the fact that, this is our district plan and it really needed a local person involved in it, and it's just a bit of a shame that we haven't got the qualified people, if you like, around the district. And just one other question. My understanding was that when I read the Grey Star a few weeks ago, or it might have been a month ago, that the chairman of the regional council indicated that he was going to be on the hearing panel. But from the documents that we've got, it's only the 3 district councils that will appoint somebody, and iwi. Is that?
Yes, so that was a question that came to me from Linda, from Councillor Webb. So I phoned the Joe Armstrong, the project team, and that was the what they've asked for is correct. So it's the 3 districts, an iwi representative and an independent chair.
So it's the regional council won't have anybody on that?
No.
Okay. Yep.
So 5-person panel made up of each from the TAs, an iwi representative and an independent chair.
I guess my other query is that sitting councillors aren't eligible, and yet I understand the Grey nomination is an ex-sitting councillor and also somebody who prepared the draft plan. So I'm not really sure why existing sitting councillors have been excluded.
That was just the decision of the TTPP committee that it couldn't be anybody that was sitting around the TTPP table or elected members. So it's my understanding.
For what reason?
Just for reasons of conflict. So those members are no longer elected reps, and the ones you're referring to, and I think our desire was that the local RMA qualified people who had been involved in the plan and were elected members would have potentially been that person as well, but they were unavailable for other reasons. So that's the point of difference. They're no longer elected.
The difficulty in the conflict of interest. It seems obvious to me that somebody who sat and prepared the draft would have much more of a conflict of interest than anybody who didn't help prepare the draft. But anyway, that's just comments, but I'm happy with it.
So that process is again, each council is running its own process around who they put forward, but the ultimate appointments of these panelists will be the TTPP committee. So again, you're a part of that now, so it's raising that committee as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Farley, you had a question.
Presumably Sharon will be working with local council and feeding into each other.
Do you want to speak around independence?
So the role that she would be taking on is a very specific role for a specific part of the plan, writing the plan adoption process. So the role of the hearings panel is to hear the submitters, and to hear the submitters, which is to read all of the written submissions, and then to make a decision around those submissions, which will ultimately come back to the TTPP committee. So it is quite a specific role, very statutory based, no interaction with council throughout that process, which is what you would expect through anybody doing this process.
Okay, other matters for discussion? So it's been moved and seconded, moved to Councillor Sampson, seconded Councillor Bartlett, that council nominates Sharon McGarry for the hearing panel on the Te Tai o Pitini plan. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 7 is a statutory obligation of our regulatory team to bring through a report under Section 10A of the Dog Control Act 1996. Again, this is reporting on the registered dogs and infringement notices and the like. Is there anything to add from a staff point of view? I think it is read. I think just commenting, it's interesting to read the level of effort that our team go to dealing at the this is very much at the coalface of interacting with members of the public over often quite heated complaints and things around dogs, and how that effort they go to rehome. And I did see a statistic there, I just don't see it right now, about the relatively minor number of dogs that are actually impounded. It's obviously treated as a last resort, so the team do their best to find homes for these dogs and work with owners and things on improving anything that otherwise would perhaps be an infringement. So, any questions on that paper?
No question, just something I wanted to add. This year they've also introduced a different registration for working dogs, which I think has been really well accepted by a lot of farmers. So that's good to see.
Any other comments? Okay.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Move to Councillor Nolan. Is there a seconder? A seconded Deputy Mayor Basher. That's council adopts the Buller District Council annual report on dog control policy and practices 2021-2022 financial year. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any against? That's unanimous. Thank you. And please, Mr. Judd, pass on those comments to your team. Agenda item 8 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. I will leave it to Sharon, or ask Sharon to talk you through that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. Look, I'll take the report primarily as read. Rachel will lead through any specific conversation that you may wish to have around the reforms, but I think that what the report reflects is the breadth and scope of reforms that local government is facing, and some of the challenges for you as councillors for next year and things to consider. And what you can see from there is that there's likely to be a number of workshops that will require some submissions to be able to represent the Buller District's view on some of these reforms and changes. And I know that Rachel, while she's acting, will very ably work with you around that. The key area I'm going to focus on is just around the fluoridation. Having received some correspondence from the Director General of Health last year around fluoridation requirements. So fluoridation was moved from local government responsibility over across to health. The first tranche of councils were advised early last year or early this year around the need to fluoridate. We have been picked up in the second tranche. And as I've indicated in the report, the team will work with you to hold a workshop in December that takes you through the implications around fluoridation, what that means overlaid with the three waters. So earlier this year, the team undertook a piece of work to understand the implications of fluoridation. So we've got a really good report to be able to workshop through with you and understand. And obviously the timing around the three waters is really quite challenging. So as you can see, we've got until the 2nd of February to be able to provide some feedback on that. So sure, after the workshop, you'll give the team some strategic guidance as to how you would like to approach this. And Rachel, is there anything you want to add in particular?
We've given you quite a bit of background on some of the reform that's coming through. Obviously, the three waters reform has been known about for a while, but this just gives you an update for newly elected members and also talk through the timeframe. We're seeing a lot of activity in that space just at the moment, and we're expecting more to happen within the next week or so. The resource management reform information has come out reasonably recently. It's largely in line with what we were expecting. The submission close date for that is the 30th of January, which is slightly unfortunate timing, and there may be some requests to get an extension to that timeframe, whether that's what we will work towards. And we will aim to bring something to council to workshop with you, because that is quite significant reform that impacts on quite a large part of what we do. Some of it is largely consistent with what we're doing with the Te Taupōwhini plan anyway, so in some ways we are leading the way on what the resource management reform looks like, but there will be implications for us in that change in legislation, which will certainly bring through the discussion. Similarly, the future for local government and reform that's happening there, obviously that is a key critical piece of work for us and something we'll take a very real interest in. There will be a series of workshops and webinars available which you will get invitations to, and we will also do something specific with you in the new year, and appreciating that this is a lot of things for you to be considering, a lot of things for the staff to be working on. We'll just look to timetable out as far in advance as possible when we bring these to you, so that we can meet the submission deadlines as well as ensure we're actually able to get that work done. Happy to take any questions, and otherwise we'll just keep feeding information through you as we receive it.
So a question from me around the MBA and the spatial planning submission. Do we need to schedule a workshop the last week of January or something with councillors for that? Because there's nothing in our calendars.
We have, yes, we think that would be a worthwhile thing to do, and we've been having a little chat internally about getting a pencil placeholder in your diary if you're happy with that. So
I think we should, because that's an important one, at least on Zoom or whatever. Yeah. Councillor Howard?
Are we going to do a council, the review for future local governance? Are we looking at doing a council submission, or are we just looking at doing individual submissions?
My advice would be that we look to do a council submission, and that's what we would look to bring through with the workshop to discuss what that would look like. That doesn't preclude anybody around the table from doing an individual submission and encouraging our community to do individual submissions. But yes, my advice would be that we look to do a council.
And Tony May did do that. The webinars are very good. Tony May actually not doing the same. We had a workshop on the last one. It was quite interesting. And just for everyone else's information, when it came up to getting people's views around appointed representatives, it was very, very strong against that. But maybe the one little exception, they did think there should be room for an equally appointed representative. But otherwise, for all the workshop and the combined workshop was over a resounding no. They didn't see that. They saw it as anti-democracy, and that there was other means in your committees and in the workshops and your project teams to bring in who you wanted anyway. So they didn't see the value of appointing someone extra, the expertise which was available on other channels.
Projects and partnership. Councillor Sampson.
I see that on the 14th of December, the fluoridation workshop coming up on the top.
Yep.
So
that's fluoridation. I was talking about the RMA.
I thought they were talking about the fluoridation as well.
Yep. So we've got that one locked in already.
I just asked about the dollars for fluoridation. Is the assumption that it'll be paid for by someone else?
My apologies, I jumped in. That's part of working through the workshop with you. There are some different options. What we have as worked through is understanding what the dollar implication could be for Buller. That's where we need to present that to you as a group of councillors. And depending on that is the course of action as to how we write back to the Ministry of Health or to the NTU.
It was interesting. They asked for what for you to make a projection about the cost, but then it says on the table if and funding available. I thought they were saying, if we gave you money, what would it cost you?
And this is where the timing of the Three Waters reform and the different funding packages that are coming out of that. So I'm not sure that the Ministry of Health and NTU have connected in their conversations.
Okay,
So it may well be that we need to assist connecting them with the conversations around the funding.
thank you.
Yes, just in terms of the RMA reforms, did we hear at the workshop, the TTPP workshop the other day, that this plan will run its 10 years and then we will take any changes into consideration? Or are we having to change the plan even before it's been put out, approved, if you like?
We go. What do you
Oh,
want
no,
to
you
do?
go.
So, well, my understanding from the TTPP being on the committee was that was the whole reason we expedited the notification, was because that basically meant that the plan, once notified, participates in the current legislation. Whereas if we fail to get one up, then the new legislation would have to be given. The new plan would have to be done under the new legislation. So it allows us to participate in whatever the transition arrangements are, which in the old RMA was something like 10 years. Whether this one is the same, I'm not sure if that's been made clear yet or not, but anything to add?
Certainly something that the ministry are indicating that they are very aware that councils are all at very different stages of their plan review processes, and some will have brand new plans and some will have slightly older plans. And my understanding is that they're trying to make allowance and understanding for that. I must confess I haven't read the specific transition provisions that are proposed yet, but it is one we will take a very close and careful look at, and certainly submit around ensuring we get the return on investment of TTPP.
Any other questions out of CE's report? Okay. Somebody like to move that council notes the contents of the CE report? Deputy Mayor Basher, seconded Councillor Grafton. All those in favour? Any against? It's carried unanimously. Right, next agenda item is the Mayor's report. Again, I will take that largely as read. There's some information in there to put on the record around the economic performance of the district in recent times. The Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, if the new financial year of that has gone to a new reporting framework, which sends me a link, which I put my comment into, and then I don't seem to be able to ever get it back. So I'm trying to work with Julie to figure out how I actually get the report back so I can get the numbers and things off it and bring it through to this report like I was last trimester. So that hopefully will return next month with detail of how many people have been supported from that fund. The mural relief is there, and again I acknowledge former Councillor Rutherford's joined the public gallery for his efforts in the maintaining his presence on the Mural Relief Fund Committee, and that met last week and distributed another around $10,000, certainly getting to the thin end of that fund as we work through claims each fortnight. Reports there from recent external meetings. There's Chairs Aniwi at the local government zone 5 and 6. There's good reports there from Councillor O'Keefe and Howard, who attended that with me, and then a brief one of the key people I spoke to and things at the Rural and Provincial Conference in Wellington of the same week. And I think that's largely the report. Any questions? Councillor Sampson.
Page 113, the Auckland's Camping Club have got correspondence there about legislation going through for freedom camping, which we're all aware of. But again, it brings the issue up again that freedom camping will have been funded for, and sure there's legislation that we contained, but that's not always the case. We've got toilets there at Hector that are sitting there there have been on the social media comments about it. I've had a call about it to say what can be, the toilets be reinstated, but I did some figures and that's not quite the case. And I'm just wondering if it's worthwhile to take those toilets away, because while they're there, being a presence. And I'm just putting it out there, what are we going to do? I'm trying to see those toilets utilised, but we don't have the funds for it. And yeah, we're going to end up with a problem of freedom camping, well, that's what's being suggested, and how we're going to address it. With no finances.
Anything to come? So is there no funding this year for any of that sort of ambassador program stuff?
There was limited funding, but again, it's where they're going through that process is in fact even worthwhile for what you get. It sounds easy having ambassadors and using that money, but you've got to supervise them as health and safety obligations. It's quite a complex thing. And last time we did it, I'd argue we went to a lot of trouble for a problem that we never actually had. It was perceived rather than actual. In regards to those particular toilets, I do remember we were paid to extend some of the funding. And that was certainly around out. And now it seems like we're anticipating a problem, which absolutely every year, I guess this time of year, we do wonder what's going to turn up in terms of freedom camping, because it is a mixed bag. There is a lot of variables, but I think all I can really say is that if you're seeing something, hearing something, we will be monitoring it. The compliance staff that we have is starting to remit to keep an eye on those places. It's probably just encouraging people to enter service requests. And it's really good then we can have actual data. We're limited for sure in a long patch. So look, if people could enter service requests if they are seeing problems, and then we can retarget as where we do spend our time.
And as for removing them, I guess there's a cost to that as well. And then the funding opportunity did come up, and we wouldn't have the facility there readily available to reopen them. Yeah.
So what is the monitoring going to be? Checking on the people that are illegally there, or planning monitoring to clean up the mess? You know, we're not going to have any money for monitoring, but if we did have any, or if you managed to squeeze some out, what would it be useful? Because do you try and tidy up afterwards on preventive forming? And
what I'm hearing is we're going to do whatever monitoring function we can from existing staff, and if there's an issue, then we'll look to resource that.
Yeah, we'll probably target that with taking, I guess, compliance or enforcement action to prevent investment. There's various ways we can do that.
So no one's had their hand up. Any other questions, Councillor Howard?
And just page 75, just in your report, mayors and chairs, Development West Coast, could you tell me a bit more about this new people and cultural committee that formed, and what functions do you think that'll perform?
I think that's an internal committee around development, as far as I understand, developing their own people. So they didn't have one at all before. So it's an improvement, I think, in the organisation. That's what they were referring to, rather than a service they're offering the community or whatever. That's correct. Yeah. Any other questions from my report? Any additional letters or outgoing correspondence anyone wishes to bring to my attention that they require written? Okay, there's two recommendations there: to receive the report for discussion and information, and receive and note the incoming and outgoing correspondence, and provide any direction for any responses or additions. So you'd like to move that one? Both 1 and 2. Seconder, Councillor Farley.
Could I just put out a correction that's needed in the report from the medical people? Talking about 2018 census and the population of Westport 1,260.
Yes, I saw that too. That report is, it's just, it was really just for information that they've feedback from their whole district-wide engagement process that the students did. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, committee chairs, representative bodies, verbal updates. So this is where we'll bring through any councillors that are on external appointments as representing of the council, if they've met or have an update to let us know, and we'll add them to this list. So it's a slightly shorter list this time until we get a bit more down the track. But the first one is Ngāti Wawa representative Ned Tawhare, and it's great to have you back, Ned, after a period of ill health. So welcome back. Is there anything you want to raise on behalf of iwi? Thank you very much. Joe, Councillor Howard, sorry, Community Environment and Services Committee.
Yeah, I just got a bit of a summary for what various people with portfolios have been up to. Mentioned that the Community Culture and Centre feasibility group have been meeting regularly, just waiting for confirmation of funding before they can undertake the feasibility study. So they have got a survey ready to go about potential users and what the requirements would be of the centre. Community Library Group have been meeting, and the Punakaiki Community Facility Group have been meeting and regular correspondence with council, so that's positive. Councillor Bartlett has been doing a lot of youth engagements. She's engaged with the Youth Voice Kawatiri and also the new Te Reo TKOE Trust, which has been formed, which is interested in a youth space. She's also touched base with the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, Julie Moore and Ruby Erickson, about their work with engaging youth in jobs. So well done as a new councillor. Grant White Weston attended the Salvation Army Driving Awards. And just in general updates, the McCarthy flats have changed hands, but staff are still working with tenants to ensure the smooth transition. Reefton Service Centre and Info Centre have been amalgamated, and the new Reefton toilets have been opened. There's been good response to the community halls and reserves expressions of interest for committee members. And just some general engagement, the TAS housing opening, New Zealand Census visit, and just encouragement and engagement with the census project and how they're hoping to really get out of the community this time, the value of having really good information. Tend to the wellbeing, Hui, one of the community hub, and also the interagency meeting, just get an idea what's happening in the health and social sector.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Howard on that? Cool. Graham, I don't know if you've got any update on localities. Was there a workshop yesterday?
I just had Mr. Mayor, yes, it was an all-day hui yesterday with all the partners. Yesterday was the first time that the council reps were there. So I attended on behalf of Buller, along with the Mayor of Westland and the Mayor of Grey. For those that don't know, a locality is the new term. It's actually a prototype, and West Coast was chosen as a prototype. I think there was 8 others around New Zealand, and we learned yesterday that there's another new locality prototype in Gore, surrounding the Gore district. So I guess in terms of what our contribution was yesterday, we were there to listen, and so we heard from various project managers that there are projects going on. So there's a project about Whānau Ora, there's another project about for youth, and then the what was the DHB gave a bit of an update on what they're doing with generalists in the hospital system. So the locality is tasked with coming up with a plan, and we haven't got a date for when the plan's due. but by 2025, there has to be a system in place to deliver primary healthcare services for the whole of the West Coast. And so the group's working towards that. At the moment, although we've been, by legislation, we're a full partner, I noticed in the presentation that Councillor Howard circulated from the interagencies that's given by the Kevin Hay, that councils weren't actually listed on the partners. So we attempted to fix that yesterday, that we are a full partner and we have the same rights as anybody else. And they have a governance committee that they've formed from those partners, and so we aren't on that governance committee, but meeting with the two mayors yesterday, we felt that we have the rights for at least one place, if not three places. So that work's carrying on at the moment. So I guess in terms of what's meant to happen, Minister Little has indicated that every community in New Zealand is to be visited by the localities, if you like, to find out what sort of health needs they require, and so that we sort of get a bottom-up, restructuring of the health system rather than a top-down. But from what we learned yesterday, there may be quite a bit of top-down, and so we're looking at we're tasked with looking at how we might deliver services, and that encompasses the old DHB, the public health, Te Pautini Waiora, and lots of other organisations that haven't yet been brought together. But I guess health and wellbeing has an important part to play in the council, and the determinants of health stretch outside the delivery of health services. So we'll be looking at housing, even transport, and even things like truancy, which has an influence on people's health. So it's a wide encompassing thing, and I think CEOs mentioned before, it's like building a plane as it's hurtling down the runway, and that's about what it is. So it's a bit chaotic. There's really no concrete things that I can present at the moment, but we're working towards getting a system in place for delivery and who will provide those services by 2025. So happy to take questions.
In terms of that governance committee, it was made really, really clear pre-election that local government were always going to be a part at that level, and my understanding was there was a space left for us at the timing of elections, and that it just wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
So are you satisfied that that's what they're expecting, or do we need some more advocacy or some words from us?
We're working on that because actually the chairperson of the locality, Kevin Hay, left early, and so we were talking to other members of the governance committee, and they're quite happy. What we have to determine is whether there's three places or one. If there's one, Mayor Gibson has indicated that she would be available to represent the three councils on that governance committee. So I'm reasonably happy with that, and probably I'm not sure if we need a paper back to this council to endorse that, but once we get the details of how we get on there, we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Howard?
I can see, as far as in that representation, I can see the value of maybe Grey and Westland because they're a bit more geographically aligned, but Buller's sort of had its own distinct sort of issues and delivery issues. I'd really love to see Buller represented too. I'd like to see at least two represented to local government.
On the government, we will be full partners. We will be one of the full partners. It's just whether we get up to that subgroup, if you like, of the localities group. But I can certainly push for that.
So how do you see your involvement if you weren't part of the governance group? Just more of a...
Well, the governance group's meeting quite regularly. I understand just about on a weekly basis, whereas the wider group is meeting on a wider time.
Yep. Councillor Sampson?
I think, for reasons Joe put out there that it's important that the board does have representation because of they're just that much more remote.
Yeah.
And yeah, giving those medical. So, and the other question, how many actually on the committee?
There was probably about 25 or more.
Oh, really?
Wow.
In terms of the wider group, but I'm not sure on the actual governance committee what the numbers are.
I think it's 7.
Well, they have been meeting, but I'm not sure what the numbers are.
So on that group, are there board representatives other than some?
Currently 5 reps on the governance group. There are currently 5 representatives across multi-agency governance group.
But I think it's pretty obvious to everybody that the health system of the law is broken, and for those that are looking for a silver bullet from this group, there will be no silver bullet from this group. We don't interfere with the old DHBs running of their systems at the moment, and until the plan comes together, until it's all agreed on, then it will be business as usual. And Bull is really missing out both here and in Westport at the moment. And this group has no power to change that.
Okay.
But certainly, as much as I've been pretty cynical about the health system for a while, especially here in the Buller, I do have some faith that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to really change the model of how we deliver health in the Buller. And I've got faith that this group might be able to make some changes, and a lot of the workshop yesterday was about getting people in the right headspace to actually accept changes and develop something that is not old wine and new bottles, which the transition unit said will not happen. But being the cynic I am, some of the appointments that have been made at the regional level and at the local level indicate that that isn't going to happen. But we'll be pushing hard to make sure that that's it.
As far as being represented on that governance group, I think Buller could quite easily relate to Westland because they have a similar region as in like Franz Joseph and Wanneroo and the rest of it, but I don't think Grey is very comparable to Buller. So I think we would definitely be missing out if there wasn't a Westland or Buller representative. Yeah.
Okay, I'll push that message.
I think so. I think it's important because I have to be guided by you as to what level you think is the most influence.
Yeah. Well, without doubt, the governance committee is the most influential. Yeah. So I'll talk to the other 2 mayors and go from there.
Any other questions? Somebody like to move on. We received those verbal updates from committee chairs and representative bodies for information. Moved Councillor Farmer, seconded Councillor Webb. All those in favour? Any against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 11 is to move us into public excluded to discuss Three Waters operation and maintenance contract. Purpose for that reason for excluding the public is to enable any local authority holding information to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial, and section 2B would be likely unreasonably to prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied or who is subject of the information. Now, I move that way. So seconded Deputy Mayor Basher. Any discussion required on that? All those in favour? Any against? Carried.
Can before we move into excluded, just have the floor for a minute, if I may. I'd just like to say that this is your last meeting, and I'd just like to thank you for your contribution to Buller over the time that you've been here. I never served the last 3 years, so I didn't really see you, at your peak. But I was certainly there when we appointed you. And from a personal perspective, I want to say that you've restored my faith in human nature.
That's lovely.
Prior to you coming, we've been through a pretty rough time with departure of 2 CEOs, and it really affected me quite badly. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking a leap of faith in appointing me. Actually, that was a big courageous step by the council at the time. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've enjoyed every moment of my 4 and a bit years. And thankfully I have an amazing team, and it's all about the people. And it's never about one person, it's about the team in Backrikey. They have delivered some, and I hope council's in a better place than what it was when I found it. I certainly feel like it is. So thank you.
It certainly looks from the outside that it has done everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Graham, that's lovely.
Before we're elected, I was going to seek permission from the mayor to express my appreciation to you, Sharon. Huge contribution you have made to the council and to the district. I'm sure Jack concurs with me. I know we sit here representing the public. I would like to think that I could speak on the public's behalf and expressing that appreciation to you.
Thank you. We've always managed to agree to disagree at times, but it's always been very professional, and I've always enjoyed your lovely chat.
I always hoped it was constructive.
Absolutely, and that's part and parcel of it, so I thank you for that. And it's lovely to see you back at council again.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, cool. So we'll just put the public excluded paper to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Councillor Reid is against going into public excluded. Yes, so we just need to stop the live stream. We're now in public excluded. And this is to
Sorry, we haven't stopped yet.